Welcome to the Sutlifin Report. Len, your article, Philadelphia Emir confirms his neighborhood belongs to Muslims only, was in the New English Review, and it caught my eye. This is not the first time in this country that an Islamic leader openly admits to trying to create a new neighborhood that would belong to Muslims only, but it does cause me to ask many questions.
And it's not limited to Philadelphia. He's actually involved in, believe it or not, he's trying to expand, increase Islamic only presence in other cities, and including Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yes, there was in 2014, 2016, two Universal executives, Rahman Islam, bribed a Milwaukee school board member, Michael Bonds, who actually pleaded guilty in federal charges for accepting nearly $6,000 in bribery.
It's not enough.
So it goes on and on. And it actually goes back, it even goes back further than that as far as Kenny Gamble goes. Back in 1975, that's before Gamble was involved in Universal companies, he was involved in the Corvette Payola scandal, where the Justice Department actually accused Gamble of accusing Gamble of record labeling or offering bribes to the record company in return for airplay. So he was fined for that. So he has a long history of corruption. And by the way, you would ask me who owns it. It's a nonprofit, and Gamble is still the chairman, but he has other people involved. He has family members involved in the company. He has other people are the CEOs and the president. But he has lots of family members. And if you take a look, just take a look on GuideStar. If you look at his company there, and you can actually look at his Form 990. I looked at that, and I found an item on that in that 990 that says settlement payment $290,000. That's all it says. Now, why would there have to be a settlement? If you're having a settlement payment, it means you could have been sued and you want to settle that at court, so you've made a payment. What that was for, it's not clear what it's for. It doesn't tell you what it's for. But you have to wonder, was this payment made to settle any of the bribery accusations? And I don't know, but it could be something worth looking into. So he's embroiled in numerous scandals, corruption scandals. I'm sure it's not the last that we're going to hear about that. He seems to be. Ken Gamble wasn't specifically accused of bribery on those issues with regard to Wisconsin, but you can see he's not shy to shell out money if it's going to benefit him, his company, and his Islamic Enclave only area in Philadelphia.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing for doing this work. Wow. So, does he have any other plans for the area, like renaming streets or imposing Sharia?
You know, what they say, what can be done, and what they hope to get done, and what actually can be done are two different things. On one hand, the Emir talked about how he'd like to change the name of his street. Is that the mosque is now on the corner of Christian and 15th. He talked about wanting to change the name of Christian Street to Muslim Way. In the course of talking about Christian versus Muslim, he was saying that Muslims, we have our iftar lasts a whole week, and we have great meals every week. But Christmas only one day. No. So obviously Muslims are better religion than Christianity because you eat more. It's just so absurd. kind of things he was saying. And the concept of creating a Muslim-only enclave and imposing Sharia law in that area, it's not. There's lots of talk about this, and a lot of this has been done throughout the world, really, in London and France, even parts of America. There's a book that was written recently about the no-go zones in this country, and they mentioned some cities in the United States, in Michigan and in California, in Bernardino, places in other parts of the world, Sweden, where this occurs. And the fear here, or the concern here, is that if that takes place, that there actually is a no-go zone, in which case people are either intimidated from going there, and the ones who will live there will have a Sharia law imposed upon them. And that's, the Sharia law, as you know, is a very strict interpretation of Islamic law, and there's lots of laws and prohibitions, for women. They have to wear hijabs, and there's lots of laws that subjugate women various aspects of life. There's also crimes for if you're accused of being gay. There's punishments for that. So there certainly is a concern about that here in Philadelphia. I'm not sure. I mean, there's a concern about that in Philadelphia of the people who are paying attention. For those who are not paying attention, it's not a concern. And whether Philadelphia is going to do anything about this, if the officials are going to do anything about it, at this point in time, unless this enclave and the Islamic groups there do something so egregious that it's become so impossible to ignore, it's going to continue to happen. I don't know if you remember, many years ago, back in early 80s. You remember the MOVE organization?
Yes.
In Philadelphia, they took over Powelton Village, and they took over Osage Avenue, and there's a group of radicals, and the neighbors couldn't, they were making life very, very difficult. Forced neighbors. They had lots. They had dogs and rats and insects. It was they created a really unhealthy area in that neighborhood, and the people in the neighborhood complained vigorously to the city of Philadelphia. They came down complaining every week almost. He had a list of complaints, and basically the city of Philadelphia did nothing. And so you want to wonder, and then eventually they did do something, which turned out to be a disaster. But for a long period of time they did nothing. They just let it fester. So you wonder if the Philadelphia city is going to let MOVE go on and go on, and they were actually they were really a problem for their residents. They really created a very unhealthy atmosphere for them. Well, right now, this mosque is not doing anything outwardly that's going to create hazards or health issues among this area. So they're not going to respond. To say that we have a enclave area that's once a Muslim-only area, that's not going to resonate with city officials. Well, what they're going to see is that, hey, the city is doing well. There's charter schools there. There's education programs. There's businesses. There are buildings there, that are being built. So that's the fact that there may be a problem there, and that's not a problem that they're going to want to deal with currently. Somebody mentioned to me, who read my article, one of the chief editors of one of the prominent Jewish newspapers in the country, I guess. He says to me, well, I read your article. How is this Muslim community any different from an Orthodox community? An only Orthodox community, Jewish Orthodox community. Let's say there's one in upstate New York called Kiryat Yoel. I said, well, there are two basic differences. One is the leadership of that group are not associated with criminals. That's number one, or people who support terrorism. And number two, they're only interested in promoting Jewish law among are the Jews, and people who go there, who live there, want to live there, as opposed to an enclave that will be imposing their laws on everybody else. So there's two basic differences, and so that's the difference. That's what we have to watch out for.
I'm really surprised that he didn't know that. That kind of surprises me, but I guess that's the big thing. The big difference with Sharia law is that it's not just law for Islam, it's law for everyone.
Right.
And that it is expected that we will toe the mark and we will submit to their belief structure. Not necessarily become Muslim, but we will accept their rule of law, and that is deeply imposed by Sharia.
And it's in opposition to our Constitution.
Highly oppositional. My next book has a huge section in it about I even go into the concept of hate. The way it's taught actually opposes several of our freedoms in the United States. The concept of freedom of speech is non-existent. The equality of women is non-existent. There is just so much in Islam that opposes any kind of freedom you think you have in America. I talked with Noni Darwish recently, and she said that she believes that Muhammad created Islam as an opposition to Christianity. Judeo-Christian heritage, she would say that. It's it's not too far to look at, because so much that Jews and Christians believe is actually the opposite within Islam. I mean, even the simple concept of truth telling. In Islam, there are allowances to purposely lie and deceive, and they even have a verse in the Quran that says that Allah is the greatest of deceivers. Sometimes they change it to greatest of plotters or something like schemers. I've seen that translation. You have to sit there and wonder.
And if you promote these ideas, not just ideas, if you point out these facts, well, that's not politically correct, and people don't want to be accused of being Islamophobic, because as if you have no reasons for pointing out these aspects of Islam. Well, there are aspects, as you just pointed out, it's in the Quran.
Well, I think we can do it because, like there is something called social psychology. And in social psychology, there is something called social norms, and that defines behavior, why you behave in a certain way. So that's what my next book targets, is the social norms. So we'll see, because I do mention all of these, and I do go at it from a professional social psychology point of view, with looking at, are there any religious beliefs or scriptures that back these things up? That's the first point I make, but that's where I'm going. Len, I want to say thank you. Your work is so important. Having been to Europe, I don't know if you've been, but I went in 2016. And yes, there are no-go zones for those people who are stupid enough to claim they aren't. The thing about the word no-go, it's advisable that you do not go to these areas. They're not saying you can't go to these areas. They're saying it's advisable that you don't go. If you go to these areas, don't expect the police to help you.
They're frightened.
Yes. The police often will not go to these areas because they get abused just for showing up. Firemen will not go to these areas at times because they get beat up for showing up. And of course, other emergency services, would you go if the police and firemen aren't going to be there to help you? And that's what it comes down to. And that's what we're seeing happening throughout Europe. Does South Philly really want to take that chance?
I'm sure if you ask them, if you pose them that question, they probably would say no. but they probably say there's no proof of that ever happening. They probably don't see it. They just don't see it in the distant future. They don't see it in their mindset. They don't see it ever happening. Of course, there's a lot of things that happen that we never thought would happen. And then eventually,
Yes, definitely. And recent history proves that true so much right now.
but if you don't learn from the past, as we say, then it's only going to repeat itself.
Amen. Len, I gotta say thank you, and I'll definitely have to have you back. You keep this research and keep your writing and research going. I truly appreciate it, and I keep trying to share it out every time I get a chance. Thank you.
Appreciate being on the show. It was always a pleasure being here. Always a pleasure to talk to you, Paul. Thank you very much.
God bless.